Assalamualaikum to my respected lecturer Sir Rustam bin Syari and everyone. I am Wan Anis Afrina. For our case study, we choose the topic of rising cost of living and its impact on retirement saving. Let's start. Imagine working hard for decades only to find that your retirement savings are no longer enough to cover your daily expenses. This is the reality faced by many Malaysians today as the cost of living continue to rise. The price of essential goods and services such as food, housing, healthcare, transportation and utilities have increased significantly. As a result, people's purchasing power has declined, making it more difficult to save enough for retirement. This situation is especially challenging for retirees and those approaching retirement because they often depend on fixed income or accumulated retirement savings that may not keep pace with inflation. This is why retirement planning has become more important than ever. It is no longer just about saving money, but also about making wise investment decisions and reviewing financial plans regularly to ensure long-term financial security. In this presentation, we will examine how the rising cost of living affects retirement saving in Malaysia. We will also discuss key retirement planning concepts, share insight from an interview with a retired Malaysian government employee, and conclude with practical recommendations to help individuals achieve better retirement readiness. Now, let's look at the issue background. One of the biggest challenges facing Malaysia retirees today is the rising cost of living. Unlike working individuals, most retirees depend on a fixed monthly pension or their retirement savings, which usually do not increase at the same pace as inflation. As prices continue to rise, their purchasing power decreases, making it more difficult to maintain the same standard of living. According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, the Consumer Price Index or CPI increased by 1.4% in 2025. At the same time, the prices of essential items also increased, including food by 2.1%, housing and utilities by 1.6%, and personal care and social protection by 4.4% percentage. These are necessities that retirees spend on every month, meaning a larger portion of their pension is needed just to cover basic living expenses. This issue is becoming more serious because Malaysia are living longer, with many retirees needing financial support for 20 to 30 years after retirement. To address this, the EPF Retirement Income Adequacy Framework recommends saving of RM390,000 for a basic retirement, RM650,000 for an adequate retirement, and RM1.3 million for an enhanced retirement lifestyle. Therefore, this issue is highly important in retirement planning because inflation can gradually reduce the value of both pension income and retirement saving. Without sufficient saving and proper financial planning, retirees may enhance their fund earlier than expected, putting their long-term financial security at risk.
Hi, I'm Natasha binti Muhammad Nasir, and now I will continue our presentation by explaining the application of retirement planning concept in relation to the rising cost of living and its impact on retirement savings. The first concept is retirement income adequacy. As the cost of living increases, individuals will need more retirement income to maintain their desired standard of living. Retirees with fixed or limited income may face financial difficulties because their expenses for food, housing, healthcare, and transportation continue to increase. Therefore, when planning for retirement, individuals should consider their future living expenses rather than only focusing on current expenses. This means that a larger retirement fund is needed to ensure sufficient income throughout retirement. The second concept is inflation. Inflation reduces the purchasing power of retirement saving over time. In simple terms, the same amount of money may not be able to buy the same amount of goods and services in the future. Therefore, retirement income should increase in line with inflation to maintain an individual's standard of living. If inflation is not properly considered during retirement planning, individuals may deplete their retirement saving earlier than expected and become financially vulnerable later in life. Next is saving behavior. The rising cost of living can make it more difficult for individuals to save consistently for retirement. When more income is spent on essential expenses such as food, utilities, transportation, and housing, less disposable income is available for retirement saving. As a result, Some individuals may delay saving, reduce their retirement contribution, or even use their existing savings to cover current living expenses. Therefore, maintaining consistent saving habits and prioritizing retirement saving are important for achieving long-term financial security. The final concept is investment rings. Individuals need to consider whether their investment returns are sufficient to outpace inflation and preserve the purchasing power of their retirement saving. Although low-risk investments provide greater stability, their returns may not be sufficient to overcome the effects of inflation. On the other hand, investment with higher potential returns may involve greater risk and market volatility. Therefore, individuals should balance risk and return according to their financial goals and risk tolerance. Diversification and regular portfolio reviews can also help manage investment risks. In conclusion, the rising cost of living affects retirement income adequacy, inflation, saving behavior, and investment risk. All these concepts are closely interconnected. Therefore, individuals need to save more, invest strategically, and regularly review their retirement plans to ensure that they have sufficient financial resources and achieve greater financial security throughout their retirement. That is all from my side. I will now pass the presentation to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Zahid bin Saidi. For our case analysis, we selected a retired primary school teacher from the Malaysian public sector as the subject of our study. She retired 4 years ago after serving as a teacher for 34 years. Upon retirement, she received a lump sum retirement benefit and currently receives a monthly government pension as her main source of retirement income. Based on our interview, she mentioned that her monthly pension is still sufficient to cover her daily living expenses. However, she has noticed that her monthly spending has increased over the past few years due to the rising cost of living. According to her, grocery prices have increased the most, followed by electricity bills. As a result, a larger portion of her pension is now used to pay for essential expenses compared to previous years. In terms of financial management, she uses her monthly pension to support her 2 children who are still studying. She also pays for groceries, electricity bills, healthcare expenses, occasional car maintenance, and annual zakat on her savings. Since her car loan was fully paid before retirement, she only needs to cover maintenance costs when necessary. Regarding her retirement savings, she does not actively invest in financial products such as unit trust or group. Instead, she keeps most of her retirement savings in bank deposits and tabung haji. She also shared that she is usually able to save around 1,000 ringgit every month. However, during certain months with higher household expenses, she is unable to save any money. Overall, her case shows that the issue is not whether the pension is enough or not, but how rising living costs gradually reduce retirees' purchasing power and their ability to save for the future. Therefore, proper retirement planning and careful financial management remain important to maintain a comfortable lifestyle after retirement. That's all from me. Thank you.
I am Nur Aina Rashika binti Muhammad Suhaili. Now I will present section 5, which is the impact analysis of the rising cost of living on retirement savings. Firstly, let's look at the short-term impact. As the cost of living continues to increase, retirees experience a decline in their purchasing power because prices of essential goods and services rise while their retirement income generally remain the same. As a result, retirees need to spend more on necessities such as food, healthcare, transportation, and utilities. This reduces the amount of money available for saving and emergency expenses, making them less financially prepared for unexpected situations. Moving on to the long-term impact. Inflation gradually reduces the real value of retirement saving. If investment return cannot keep up with inflation, retirees may exhaust their retirement fund much earlier than expected. This may lead to greater financial dependence on family members or government assistance, while also increasing the burden on healthcare and social welfare system. Finally, the groups that are most affected include retirees with fixed income, low-income household, or B40 group, and individuals who are approaching retirement age. This group have limited financial flexibility and face greater difficulty in maintaining sufficient retirement savings. Next, I will present our recommendation to address the impact of rising living costs on retirement saving. At the individual level, people should start planning for retirement as early as possible and make consistent contribution throughout their working lives. They should also diversify their investment instead of relying on only one type of asset. In addition, building an emergency fund, especially for healthcare expenses, and reviewing retirement plans regularly will help improve long-term financial security. At the government level, several initiatives can be introduced to strengthen retirement readiness. These include promoting financial literacy, encouraging voluntary retirement saving, providing targeted healthcare subsidies and financial assistance, and continuously reviewing retirement protection policies to ensure they remain effective in addressing inflation and changing economic conditions. Lastly, based on our interview findings, the retiree currently follows a conservative investment strategy. Therefore, we recommend diversifying a small portion of retirement assets into low-risk investment, reviewing monthly expenses regularly, establishing a dedicated healthcare emergency fund, and seeking professional financial advice to better manage retirement wealth. Overall, early retirement planning, diversified investment, and strong government supports are essential to ensure sustainable retirement savings and long-term financial security. Thank you.
To conclude, the rising cost of living is one of the greatest challenges to retirement planning and long-term financial security in Malaysia. As inflation continues to increase the prices of everyday necessities, the purchasing power of fixed pensions and retirement saving gradually declines. This means that even if retirees have saved a substantial amount, it may not be enough to maintain their desired standard of living over time. Our interview findings also support this issue, as the retired government employees share that the rising cost of grocery, healthcare, utilities, and other daily expenses have placed increasing pressure on retirement finance. This shows that careful budgeting alone is no longer sufficient. Retirees also need adequate saving and well-planned investment to protect their wealth from inflation. Individuals should start planning for retirement as early as possible by saving consistently, reviewing their financial plans regularly, and diversifying their investment. At the same time, the government should continue strengthening retirement policies and support programs to improve retirement adequacy. In conclusion, retirement planning is no longer just about saving enough money, it is about ensuring that our saving can continue to support the lifestyle that we want throughout our retirement years. That's all from us. Thank you.